I'm Cheree Ramirez, the host of Community Unity by Children's Services Council of Martin County, located at the 10th Street Studio. We are back at the 10th Street Studio in Stuart, Florida, and I'm excited to say I have special guest Nicole King in studio with me today for this episode of Community Unity. Thank you so much for joining me, Nicole.
Thanks for inviting me.
So Nicole and I work together at Children's Services Council. She is a program manager, and I'm going to have her introduce herself and just who she is and why she works for CSC.
Okie dokie.
I'm going to let you jump right in.
All right. Well, yes, you're right. I'm Nicole King. I have been at CSC now. Well, can we say CSC? Everybody knows what
yeah,
CSC,
of course.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
CSC, heart hands. Yeah, baby.
Been a program manager now there for 5 years. And before that, I ran an organization called the Whole Child Connection.
Yeah. One that we fund as well.
Yeah.
An organization we fund.
Yeah. And before Whole Child Connection, I actually worked at Children's Services Council of Martin County. So I've come full circle.
That's so funny. How long ago did you work for? Well, I guess how many years has it been? And what were you doing when you first worked there?
Well, when I first came to Martin County, I was working for a little organization called School Readiness Coalition, which is now the Early Learning Coalition. And I ran their Childcare Resource and Referral Department. And a little birdie came over to me and asked if I would be interested in spinning a initiative off into the community called the Whole Child Project at the time. And it was actually something that I oversaw at the Children's Services Council in Palm Beach County before I got to Martin County. So Martin County got wind of that, and they said, how would you like to come over and
run it here?
And run it here, whatever that looked like. So I was incubated within Children's Services Council of Martin County for, I think it was about, I have to go by how old my kids are now. So my oldest is 22. He was 2 when we moved here. 4. So about almost 2 years.
Okay.
I was within Children's Services Council of Martin County.
Well, and you
they
said
wanted it to become a 501c3. So then I got pregnant with my second, and I kicked off a 501c3, and we called it Whole Child Connection.
Wow,
Yeah.
look at you. All right, I did not know that about you.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you said incubated with CSC. Can you
Yep.
tell me what that means? Because I know that we have 2 programs, or is it just the hippie program that's incubated?
Yeah, Hippie's kind of incubated within CSC right now too, right? Looking for a home for Hippie, but we haven't quite found one yet. So yeah, that's essentially what it means. You know, Children's Services Council is kind of like your think tank in the community, sees a need and kind of decides, okay, this is something we need to put in our community. At the time, you know, we actually had a lot of families that did really have no idea, none whatsoever, of where services were.
Yeah. I think we still have that problem
We have a
today,
little bit of
but
that
we're
problem.
getting better, I
We're getting
think.
better.
That's the whole purpose of this Community
I was just
Unity
gonna
podcast.
say- I was just going to say, you, Cheree, have done a huge impact
Thank
on
you.
all of that. So that I commend you for.
Thank you.
So
I try. I do my best.
I'm excited about this and what you're doing and getting the word out and advertising as such in different mediums, because it's really important that our community understands all of the resources that we have.
Very true.
I mean, it totally takes a village. It's so cliche to say, but it really does.
I mean, that's kind of what I've been saying. It takes a village. This is our backyard. We need to support one another. We need to be open to seeing the other side of the tracks, essentially. You know, like Martin County is a very affluent community, but also you have the other side where people are struggling, people are in poverty, and they don't know where resources are or whether or not they can qualify. And there's so many programs and organizations in Martin County that truly care. And I'm proud to say that CSC funds 28 of them,
Right.
and
Right.
many different programs underneath that. So Martin County taxpayer dollars are at work. Thank you so much.
Yes.
But
Good stuff.
it's really so important to be a resource because families might not know how to navigate the troubles that they're going through. And it takes a village, like you said. So
yeah, it totally does.
with Whole Child Connection, what was the whole purpose for that organization? Can you go into that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. So it was essential and it was actually an idea out of the Lawton Childs Foundation.
Okay.
So
when is that?
The late Lawton Childs governor, back in the 90s, he kind of is the one that implemented Healthy Start and Healthy Families and all the healthies in our community. And he saw the need for families being assessed based on all of their domains of well-being. So everything from physical health to spiritual health to socialization, to just
mental health.
Yeah, mental health.
Yeah,
trying
all
to
of it.
fully understand, okay, if we assess a family, where are the gaps? And how do we get them connected to those services? And so they contracted with a wonderful man who created a software, a database, and it basically was like an algorithm that just kind of identified the gaps for that family, and then it would connect them to the appropriate resources in the community, and it would give the family what we called a success plan, and they would follow that throughout the community, and service referrals were sent to organizations in the community, and they would know that a family was interested in their services, and they would get linked, and that was...
So essentially, you were helping families break cycles that they didn't know that they were in by this algorithm, by asking these questions.
A series of questions around those domains of well-being. Yeah, so it was really exciting. We had a wonderful team of people that we worked together with. It was just fun, and yet we knew we were doing such great things.
And it's still happening today.
It's still happening. Yeah. It's ran by the Treasure Coast Food Bank.
And that is Ruby, right?
Yes.
Right? She's out of right off of Dixie Highway.
Right.
So their office is right off of Dixie, right next to the Fred Astaire Dance Studio.
Okay.
And they have an office over there, so you can go and check that out if you are in need, right, for your Whole Child Connection.
Right.
I do plan on having them come on in a future episode. So stay tuned and make sure you subscribe. But I'm really excited to have you here because you are just truly a wealth of knowledge, especially in the birth to 5 space, right? So that's something that we've had discussion about of being your passion. Can you go into why that's more of a passion for you, like that focus area and the importance of it?
When I was at FSU as a student, I fell in love with infant development. I don't even understand why. I liked the psychology behind it, and I loved that these little brains were just huge sponges, and they were just absorbing so much information. And at the time that I was at school, all the brain research was coming out in the early 90s, and it was so fascinating to me. And I really thought I was going to go down a policy route. But life takes hold of you, and you move on in a different direction, so that's fine. But I was still involved in policy in some regard through the Children's Services
Well, let me
Council.
say, you never know where this path and this knowledge that you have been gaining over the past 6 years, 5 years, 5 years,
Yeah.
5 years,
Yeah.
working for CSC is going to lead you. Maybe it does lead you back to policy.
Right.
You never know.
You never know. You never know. So I just found it fascinating that, that we could mold a child for the best of their abilities through the best care and through the best resources. And parenting was a huge, huge component of that.
Yeah.
And that was so apparent in my own personal life, too. And so I think that's why I also got super interested, because I was a product of divorce and I had to live through all of those ramifications, and I value being a mom first and foremost.
Yeah.
And so, and I've struggled too, so
Hey,
it's not easy
all of us
being a
mothers
parent.
have struggled, but being a mom is just one of the greatest blessings, like we are, when we're given a baby we're taking them home, that's our first person that we're having to like mold and help develop and keep alive.
I know, right?
But we are using, we have to, as we're doing it, as we are being that mother of that brand new child that we're taking home, a lot of the things that we had learned before from our parents and grandparents are going into this child. And so it's how do we make sure we take the good things?
Yes. Yes. Course correct.
Love you, Mom. Love you.
I
love you, Dad.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting role. I mean, it's has highs and it has lows, but it's one that really for me and for you, obviously, is just the most important role.
It really is.
And so that's why we do what we do, right, is to help other parents recognize that as an important, crucial role.
Yeah.
So I know that you have been working in collaboration with some other organizations, Martin County Library System, and many programs and organizations that we fund to create this parenting workshop. Can you tell me a little bit about that and the importance?
So a couple months back, it might have been maybe a year ago now, kind of organized a quarterly meeting amongst providers in our community that hang their hat in the 0 to 5 space. And so we would meet on a quarterly basis and just kind of get to know each other. And what are you doing? What's your challenges? What are your successes? How can we help one another? And as a result of those meetings, we discovered that there were a lot of parents that would get information back and not know what to do with that information.
What's the next step?
Yeah.
How do they implement it?
Right. So we decided collectively as a group that it would be a really great way to educate parents and also kind of come alongside them and show them that, you've got some resources here right at the very beginning of when your child starts.
And even prenatally, as they're pregnant.
Absolutely. So we thought it would be best to kind of do a dog and pony show around the community at the local libraries and have our experts in our community talk about, what is child development? What is the expectation for a 1-year-old?
Yeah.
What's the expectation for a 2-year-old? What's developmentally appropriate? When you hear these words, maybe in and out of the preschool setting, what does it mean?
Well, and are they taking their wellness visits? Are they doing their checks with their child?
Yes. And not to feel scared about it. It's just it's information that you can use that's only going to benefit you, and we're coming alongside you. It's not like we're telling you how it needs to be done. You are the parent and you are your child's first teacher.
Yes.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we would just want to reinforce that. And so then we have other topics that we'll be going throughout the series. The other one would be, why are early screenings important? It's really important to know whether or not your child has a delay before they get to kindergarten.
Yeah.
Because before they get to kindergarten is a way where we can intervene. We can and it could be of a serious nature and it could not be of a serious nature. And we could help them with the resources that we have in our community.
Exactly.
So that when they get to kindergarten, they are on point and they're ready.
Yeah, because literacy is starting then.
Yeah.
It starts at VPK, it starts before.
It starts before.
But like for them to be able to stay on level, for them to be able to be successful in their career,
Absolutely.
They start with reading, for learning, and then they learn to read. Yeah. So it's a really wonderful way for you to be able to help with every aspect of that child's well-being and just the organizations that we fund. And thank you for putting that workshop together. So can you...
So the first one will be September 17th.
Okay.
In Indiantown at Lahi
Elizabeth
Ranch.
Lottie. Yep.
And we are going to have everything translated.
Perfect.
So we will have it
bilingual.
in English, and we will have it in Spanish. We will have food to feed our young parents and their little ones, and we'll have childcare available too. So there's really no reason
that's a big bonus
that they can't participate and come check us out.
So how would somebody register for that event?
So they can go online to the Martin County Library website and register for the events. We're going to actually be disseminating flyers with QR codes, and that'll bring them straight to the library's website.
Fantastic.
So they can register as well. And then we hope to have at least 2 to 3 trainings a month from September through November around the branches throughout Martin County. And then we'll start up again with possibly the same topics as well as adding some new ones February through April.
Awesome. So it's going to continue on. I love that. So I'll be sure to put the links in our description of the podcast and the vlog. So we'll get you covered so people can register, and we'll make sure that the library can also share this information.
Yes, they've been wonderful.
Darlene has.
She's been fantastic.
Yeah. So one of the things that I did want to talk to you about was the role of what it is that you actually do behind the scenes, because, it's so important, the program managers, of who you're helping assist and why you're there, making sure that they are meeting their quotas and their goals and that sort of thing. Can you tell me a little bit more about your role for CSC?
Sure, yeah. Some might think it's quite boring, especially if I'm talking to my husband. He's like, okay.
It's so interesting, though.
It can be interesting. I think the interesting part is when we release a new RFP in a certain priority area, because then we can come alongside that provider and we can reconstruct, what's working, what's not working in our community. And we, as a funding entity that is paid by taxpayer dollars, have to be held accountable for those dollars. And so we have to have measurable outcomes in place. And so we, as program managers, are involved in that process, and we come alongside our program evaluator, Chanda Narkowitz, who is responsible also for making sure that these measurable outcomes speak to the provider and that they understand what is being expected of them. But we also make it more of a team effort. Yeah. We're not telling them. They're the expert. They're telling us, but we're just making sure it's quantifiable. Yeah. And that we can measure it. And that it's being measured by, validity, some kind of reliable instrument. And that gets into the weeds for most people. So I won't go too far on that. But we, as program managers, we make sure that they're following that outcome, the measures that are identified in the contract. We get in the weeds a little bit about the contract deliverables and what that expectation is. And so We do have observation visits that we do at the beginning of the year after we execute our contracts in October. So we're going out into the community, and that's the most enriching time for me, is just going out and hanging out with our community providers and what they're doing in our community. And
seeing it firsthand.
Yeah, and seeing it firsthand. It's so much fun. And then at mid-year, we have what's called like a performance mid-year review, where we basically hold their feet to the fire and see as to whether or not all of those deliverables are being met. And then we work with them if they're not being met. And sometimes we have to put providers on a performance improvement plan. And that's just a way of us finding out whether or not, they can fulfill the requirement that was expected of them, or is something need to be adjusted so that they can meet the expectation. And then at the end of the year, we have, all the data coming in, and we're sifting through the data, and we're making sure that they did meet the mark that was expected of them. And it goes on, cycle by cycle, year by year. It's kind of the same thing. It feels like Groundhog Day sometimes. Yeah. It just depends what time of the year it is. But it's our favorite part, I think, is going through the RFP and working with the provider to make sure that, we all are doing this for one reason. And that one reason is to make our community a better community.
Yeah, and we are investing in our future.
Yes.
Because the children really are our future, and like that's who is going. They're going to be the ones who are going to be taking care of us when we're older. We want to make sure that they have their best foot forward, right? And but really, just for themselves to be able to live in a way that they're free from, stigmas or anything that will hold them back from being their own best self. So I love that we have programs and people in the community who truly care in that investment. So again, thank you, Martin County homeowners, for your continued support of Children's Services Council for 35 years. Because we wouldn't be able to do it without them.
We wouldn't.
So talking about the gaps, can you tell me a little bit more about some of those gaps that we are seeing here in Martin County?
So some of the gaps we're seeing right now that we recently supported was maternal health equity, in that we are seeing certain populations that are not providing the best birth outcomes as related to either their race, their ethnicity, their culture. And so we are putting investments in that gap to ensure that our medical providers that are there in our community to provide for prenatal care and postnatal care are doing the best that they can do as it relates to equity. And so some of that comes with studying the environment and studying what's working, what's not working. So before we had released that priority area, we usually do focus groups to kind of get a better pulse as to what's happening in our community and what's not happening in our community. And one of those focus groups really did speak to the fact that we have some women in our community that are not valued enough to be given the full breadth of health care that is entitled to them.
And that's just not there.
It's just not there.
That's just not there.
So we stepped in, and we are supporting through the Healthy Start Coalition, Maternal Health Equity Initiative that is essentially educating our providers on this is what it looks like when you are providing health care to all races, all ethnicities, all cultures. And
they've been doing a wonderful job.
Fantastic job.
I know I've attended a few of those meetings, and seeing the representatives from Cleveland Clinic, they're really engaged and really having the the passion to move this forward because they're like, oh, well, this shouldn't be happening.
No, and it's happening here?
Yeah. What?
Yes, it's happening here.
But that's why that research in those focus groups is so important to be able to help fill those gaps.
Exactly.
So, again, thankful for the CSC team, you know, outside of myself, you know, you guys are doing the work, right? You guys are the ones who are actually making things happen and filling in the gaps. And my job is just to help share that.
Yes.
That's it.
We're so excited for that.
We are really we have a great team at CSC, and Nicole I've known you for quite some time, even before, you know, I think I met you when you were working with Willow House. It was
that's right.
That's when I met you. When I don't remember what I was doing at the time. It was one of the many hats that I had worn prior to CSC, but Willow House.
Chamber event.
Yeah, it was a chamber event. I think it was for the Jensen Beach Chamber.
That's right.
And I remember, like, because I was so impressed by you.
What?
I was like, oh my gosh, that is so wonderful. I think that program I mean, it's definitely needed. It's something that I have a passion for, to be able to help young girls who are needing a safe place to go.
Yeah.
And that was Willow's house, Willow's houses. And I was just like, so... like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So you've impressed me since I met you, just because of the passion that you have. And so
I get hung up on passion.
Don't we all? I feel like if you're not living a passionate life, then are you really living?
The purpose?
What are you doing?
Exactly.
So I just wanted to, like, I remember that meeting. It was at the Eagle Marsh Golf Course. Like, everything. I remember it. And I was just like, I need to, know this person. Like, and then, I know that you went to City of Stuart for a little bit, right?
Good stint there.
So I am just like, I kind of creeped on you, but I didn't know about the... I didn't creep on her, but you know what I meant. Like, I just kind of followed you because I was like, she is somebody who I want to be around. So,
oh, you're sweet.
So, and I'm lucky enough to, blessed enough, I guess, not lucky, but to be able to be working with you now for these past 3 years.
I feel the same way. It's been a joy working with you.
So, is there anything that I might have forgotten to touch on that you think is important for us to share with viewers and listeners about CSC and the mission that we have?
I mean, you're right. That is our sole mission, is identifying the gaps and filling those gaps with the dollars that are bestowed upon us. And, you know, that we take that very seriously.
Yeah.
And we truly do. We have a great, great team at CSC that every single one of them is in it to win it. And it's exciting at the end of the day to know that, you know, you can walk around your community and know that, oh, that was funded by CSC, and I know about that. That was funded by CSC, and it's really rewarding, and it's a great community to live in. And I'm hoping and praying that more people will come to know about the resources in our community.
Yes.
And sometimes I think that has to do with just if you don't need it, then you don't think to find it. But when you need it, you need it.
Well, that's why it's so important to have community partners.
Exactly.
And so every conversation that you're having with your neighbor, with your friend, with your person you go to church with, or the person that is checking you out in the grocery line, and you see a little something, ask the question, you know, and some people may share, some people may not, but if you have the knowledge, share it, you know, and be that village behind the community that is going to be successful. Like, it really does, come together and if we have the same mission and goals at heart, like that you know, our future, our children. So and I know I say this every single time. It's like, but it's like cliche and repetitive, but it's so important.
It's so true. Yeah. My biggest mission right now, I would have to say, is that we have our children ready for kindergarten. I think that's my biggest mission right now, because we've seen the numbers have not been the greatest around kindergarten readiness. And we know what's happening, you know, within our state, within our country. We know what's happening globally. Yeah. And it's super important that that our babies are ready. And we have all of the resources to make that happen.
Well, free VPK options and the HIPPY program, like you said. So home instructions for parents of preschool youngsters.
You got it.
Nailed
Woo!
it.
Dang. Wow.
No, but Cheree Ramirez is doing an amazing job in the community, trying to get more families involved in being that parent's first teacher, as you had mentioned before.
Exactly.
So, really
reading to our babies, playing with our babies, talking to our babies, engaging, you know, just every minute.
Having a conversation with them.
Yep.
I know people used to think I was absolutely crazy because I would have full-on adult conversations with my daughter.
Yes.
And just, and I still do, obviously, but it was just like, I'm going through the grocery store and I'm just going to be talking to you. That's
exactly.
That's giving them exposure to words to help them be better at comprehension, to be better in school and fluency. And so I mean,
excited about that. Excited about Martin Reed's and getting that initiative out there and understood that, again, it takes a community to come behind a priority and say, this is important. It's important that our kiddos are not at 53%, you know, third grade proficiency.
And literacy is so important too. And I know that Rob Ranieri touched on this, and I think somebody else in another conversation. But literacy is so important because it really affects the future of, you know, different prisons being built and the workforce, and those are the people who are going to be working for us. So we need the like business development boards and the economic councils of Martin County to help with this mission and get behind us. So I'm calling on you guys. But
in fact, Martin Reed's is going to be hosting a documentary called Sentence.
Yes.
And
September 7th.
September 7th. And so I would recommend that you all come out and you watch this documentary.
I will have the link in the bio to register.
It is so inspiring to know that we can abolish, you know, illiteracy from day one.
And it's a very powerful video.
Very powerful. It's very evoking, very emotional.
It's raw.
Narrated by Steph Curry, the NBA superstar. But it's very raw, and it just tells the life of, I think it's like 4 or 5 individuals that never learned to read. And what their life is like as a result of that. Not being able to access health care, whatever the case may be. Just super sad, and yet we can turn that all around within the first year of life of that child, you know? And so that's exciting to know that we have that opportunity.
Yeah. So September 7th at the Martin County High School, a Sentence will be viewing from 2 to 4. Is that what it was?
I think so.
I'll have to double check that. It'll be in the bio. But please register, come, share it with those change makers in the community who really want to get behind something that they believe in. So if literacy is your cup of tea, reach out to us.
Yes, please do.
So again, Nicole, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being an inspiration for myself.
You're so sweet.
And it's a pleasure to work with you, and I just really thank you for everything. So,
and I thank you. You're fantastic.
Thank you. Anyways, so it's been an absolute pleasure having Nicole on the show today, and we look forward to having more guests in the future come on and share their passion.
Yay.
So be sure to subscribe, like, and share on our podcasting platform, Spotify, and also on YouTube. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you for listening to Community Unity. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Share our information with friends and family to help spread the information on life-changing programs funded by CSCMC, made possible by the homeowners of Martin County.